Welcome to Washington, D.C. Hi, I'm Megan, a licensed New York City tour guide and travel content creator, and I am here today with my friend, Rob.
Hello, I'm Rob, a Washington, D.C. tour guide, and I have a YouTube channel called TripHacks DC.
I argue that he is the best tour guide in all of Washington, D.C., so definitely check him out. And today, I asked him to show me some secrets of the Washington Mall. Because I've visited the Washington Mall several times. I have family that lives in DC. I've seen all of the major postcard sites, but I wanted to know if there was anything else to discover.
And I give a tour of the monuments and memorials here on the National Mall, and I'm going to take Megan on that tour, but we're also going to take out the camera for a few additional secret sites that I'll be sharing with you today. Now, if you want to see the major sites, we're not going to be recording those, but you can sign up for one of my tours and I'll show them to you up close and in person.
I'm so excited to discover the secrets of the Washington Mall. But before we get started, make sure that you click subscribe so you never miss a travel minute.
Yeah, Muffin Talk. Ooh, Muffin Talk. Muffin Talks. Bringing healing to those who need it most.
I recognize him.
Of course, that's Albert Einstein, the world's most famous scientist. And this is interesting because this is the Einstein Memorial. It's across the street from the National Mall. Constitution Avenue is right behind you, and then the Lincoln Memorial is right there. So think about this. Millions of people come to Washington, D.C. every year and see the Lincoln Memorial, and this is right here, just right across the street, a monument to Albert Einstein.
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Well, it's a little different than most of the presidents you might expect to see monuments to out here, right? This is at the headquarters here of the National Academy of Sciences. So this monument was not created through an act of Congress like most of them are. This one was put here by the National Academy. So pretty cool, little secret.
The question is, can I climb on Einstein?
Well, I don't know about the official rules, but unofficially, you can climb on Einstein. This is one of the things that makes it one of the more popular monuments, especially for families with small kids, is that the kids get to climb up on Einstein, or kids at heart, I suppose you could say. Now, Megan, I'm curious, do you know what's written on this sheet on Einstein's hand here?
I do not recognize the first two lines. They're above my pay grade. But I do recognize E equals MC squared.
Sure, of course. E equals MC squared is Einstein's, I suppose you could say, most famous equation. The others are some of his better known mathematical equations as well. But I suppose unless you have a degree in math or just a big fan of science, you might not recognize them right away. So on the floor is a slab of granite, and it is embedded with more than 2,700 metal studs, which represents the planets, the sun, the moon, the stars, and the celestial objects, exactly as they were positioned in the night sky on the dedication date of the memorial in 1979, which is also significant because that is Einstein's 100th birthday.
Whoa. I never would have guessed it. Those little studs right there. This area is so beautiful. I feel like I'm in a little fairy story.
So I think the reason you feel this way, and I know you've been to DC before, but I'm going to guess you haven't been to this area. This is called Constitution Gardens. The reason it feels secret is because even though the National Mall is right there and the Washington Monument is right there, this little area here unfortunately doesn't get very much attendance. So it's a bit of a secret. And we are right in front of one of my favorite secret monuments, the signers of the Declaration of Independence Memorial. It has a longer official name. I can't remember the long official name, but most tour guides around here just call it Signers Island because it is quite literally, at the end of this bridge, a little island. This is called the Signers Memorial, and what would a Signers Memorial be without the actual signatures? Well, not the actual signatures, but reproductions of the actual signatures. And I notice, Megan, you're going straight towards the signature of John Hancock.
Yes, of course, if I'm looking at signers of the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, he's pretty famous for having the largest signature, of course, and now it's become a colloquialism for a signature. Put your John Hancock on this document, if you will.
The legend that I always heard was that he wanted King George III to be able to read his signature without his spectacles on.
Okay, Megan, so you said you are getting into the Founding Fathers era of history, and there are 56 to choose from here. So I'm curious, of the signers, of these 56 signers, which one would you say is your favorite?
Okay, I love the musical 1776.
Fair.
And as portrayed in that musical, I really love Thomas Jefferson. So I know that history is very complicated. So I love Thomas Jefferson. Ooh, and I also love Benjamin Franklin.
Ah, good choice. Now, maybe you've noticed, or maybe you haven't yet, but these are organized by location of the signer, where they're from. So, of course, Benjamin Franklin from Pennsylvania is over here. And so if we were to find the Jefferson's signature, we would make our way over to the Virginians and find it over there.
There he is. Richard Henry Lee is really cool too. This is such a cool little secret because even when I was at home doing my research, I was searching for founding father sites in Washington, D.C., I don't think that this came up in any of my initial research. So this, to me, is a true secret, and I always like promoting live tours. I feel like it's only if you take probably a private tour, to be honest, and you say, I'm really interested in founding fathers, that you would find a site like this. So it's a reason why you take live tours. Every time I visit the Washington Mall, this exact location is so striking. You got this beautiful view of the Lincoln Memorial. And then of course, if you turn around,
is the World War II Memorial, which is definitely one of the more famous memorials, and it is on my tour of the monuments. So if you come on a tour with me, you'll get to see it. But right over there is a bit of a secret. And this secret, I only show it on my own tour, by request only. So if you do wind up coming on a tour with me, then make sure to request it so that you can see Kilroy. Let's go see him. So we're here by the Delaware Column, the first state. And if you come find the Gold Gate right over here and look behind it and zoom in, there he is. That little bald guy is called Kilroy. During World War II, Allied soldiers drew this cartoon everywhere. They used chalk, pencil, whatever drawing utensil was available. I guess I would say it's similar to the block S, that S that you draw on everything when you're in school. But yeah, it's kind of like Kilroy was like an early version of an internet meme, maybe? I called it a cartoon, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
am I Kilroy?
You're Kilroy.
I brought my nephew here to play. It was like fall and there was fall leaves everywhere.
Okay, well, most people come here in the spring because we are currently on the spot of the first planting of the first cherry trees in Washington, D.C., or I guess in the USA altogether. In 1912, the First Lady and the wife of the Japanese ambassador came right here to this spot and planted the first cherry trees. And it's June when we're recording this, so you might not know this, but these are the world-famous cherry blossoms from Japan.
And what's this? I didn't notice this before.
This, I think that this might just be the oldest artifact in all of Washington, D.C.
All of Washington, D.C.
Okay, that's probably not accurate. I'm sure the oldest artifact is in a museum collection somewhere in the Smithsonian. But I think this might be the oldest outdoor monument in Washington, D.C. This was created in 1651. That is a long time before the United States was even a country.
Yeah, more than 100 years, right?
Sure was. And it is here now as a gift from the governor of Tokyo, who gifted it to the people of Washington, D.C. in 1954. And of course, when you come in the spring and you're looking at the cherry blossoms, the Japanese culture is very much part of that conversation. So what a better spot for this historic item than right here. Well, this is it. This is the spot.
The spot?
Right, so there was a train station here back before the National Mall existed and before all of these museums were here. And James Garfield was boarding his train at the station, which is now a museum, the National Gallery of Art.
And this was a spot where a former president of the United States was assassinated, is that correct?
Right here. So just unbelievably to me, as far as secrets go, this spot, people walk past here, thousands of people walk right past. They go to the museum, they go look at the art on the inside, and they are none the wiser that a major, massive historical event happened right here.
That's so fascinating because like, you think about, Abraham Lincoln and Ford's Theater, but you never think about Garfield.
Unfortunately, Garfield was not president for too long. He was not the shortest president. That goes to Harrison, but Garfield, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, was not president for very long, and therefore his legacy is not very well remembered.
Well, very interesting historical secret here at the mall. I literally never thought about what was here before the mall.
Well, sure, because you just look at the mall and you assume that it was always like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know better, but I never thought about DC pre-mall.
It's hard to imagine a time before the National Mall existed or a time before the Lincoln Memorial existed, but these are relatively new in terms of history. I mean, for a majority of our country's history, these things weren't here.
So, can we go in?
No, I'm so disappointed. This is the Summer House, one of my favorite secret sites in all of Washington, D.C., but we've come too late in the day. It is summer. We tried to come later to beat the heat, and it's too late. We can't go inside the Summer House, but this is one of my favorite secret sites because it's just so fascinating. Washington, D.C. became the capital in 1801, and that was a long time before air conditioning was invented. So you can imagine coming to the capital during the summer, like June, like it is right now, not exactly the most pleasant experience. So people complained about the heat, naturally, and they complained about the fact that they couldn't find water, they couldn't find shade, and so the designer of the Capitol grounds, Frederick Law Olmsted, built the Summer House to remedy that. Now that name might sound familiar to you as a New York City tour guide.
Yes, Calvert Vaux and Frederick Law Olmsted were the designers of Central Park. And I think I even said to you as we were coming up here, oh, this looks a little Central Parky.
Well, people sometimes say the entire Capitol grounds looks a little, quote unquote, Central Parky. But I think this is definitely a style of architecture that I could personally imagine. If you showed this to me with no context, like no Capitol Dome over there, anything like that, I might say it was from Central Park too.
We're now going to get an exclusive look
through the
inside.
Gate. So what Olmsted did here was design a hexagon-shaped building. There's seating on 3 of the sides. You can seat up to 22 people in here. The benches are shaded and sheltered by these roofs that are made out of red Spanish mission tile. And then the centerpiece, right in the middle there, the most important part, is where you go for your water. So this is a fountain. Now, when it was designed in the 1800s, it was fed by a nearby spring. I'm pretty confident, though not 100% confident, that this is now city tap water and safe to drink. But if you're uncertain at all, there are other water fountains around. But Megan, if you zoom in really closely on the fountain, so zoom in one more time if you can. Okay, so there are hooks right next to it on both sides. Perhaps you can edit on some visual aids so people can see. And once you start seeing these around Washington, D.C. or any city, you can't unsee them anymore because in the old days, the legend was that they would have cups that would hang down from strings from these hooks. And that's how you would drink. You would pick up the cup, stick it under the water, and drink your water. Of course, they hadn't really discovered germs yet, so maybe not the most hygienic, but that's how it was done. And now, for my favorite of all the secret sites on the National Mall, the Bartholdi Fountain. And I know that this one's important to you, Megan, because Bartholdi is important to New York City tour guides, to French tour guides.
If you follow my videos, you've probably learned a lot about the Statue of Liberty. And Frederic Auguste Bartholdi was the man who designed the Statue of Liberty. And what's been really fascinating for me as a tour guide is throughout my world travels, finding other works of art that Bartholdi designed as well. So for example, I recently visited Lyon, France, and found a fountain that he designed there in Lyon, France.
Wow.
And now there's one in DC. So what can you tell us about this fountain?
All right, so this was created by Bartholdi for the 1876 Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia. It was put up for the expo, and then afterwards they didn't really know what to do with it, so Congress purchased the fountain and moved it here to the Capitol grounds. And interesting to me is that It was one of the first sites in Washington, D.C. to be lit at night. It had gas lamps back in the 1800s, and this is important to me because people always tell me they want to see the sites at night. They want to see the sites lit up, and usually they're talking about the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial. But imagine a time in the 1800s when you want to see the sites at night. This is what you would come to see.
And a really cool thing about that is, based on what you said, there's actually two things that it has in common with the Statue of Liberty, in addition to the fact that it was designed by Bartholdi. So you said that it was made for the 1876 centennial, which is the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And very long story short, that's the same reason that the Statue of Liberty was created. And the Statue of Liberty was the very first electric lighthouse in the United States. So
I love connections like that.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to discover this.
Awesome.
I learned so much about the Washington Mall today. Some of this stuff was stuff that I have literally walked past dozens of times and never noticed. So I loved seeing all of that history illuminated for me.
Yeah, I love showing people the National Mall. I do a tour of the monuments and memorials because, I'll be honest, those sites never get old. But if you really want to go that extra mile, these secrets are here too, so check them out.
Thank you so much. If you want to book a Washington, D.C. tour, make sure that you check out TripHacks DC. I will put the link in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click subscribe because it helps me bring you more videos like this. Happy travels!